first of all, it's great to see all of you here. I know you have many sessions that happen at the same time right now across GDC, and we're pleased that you came to listen about our thought about what's happening with the industry, what's happened with Agentic AI, and how we understand players and their behaviors. I have a couple of announcements to say before we start. So first of all, if you have any media devices, and you have media devices like your cell phones or anything that can create additional noise or sounds, if you can put them on mute over the set, will be fantastic. So we can have everyone can listen and understand what we're trying to share. And also, what's really important is the feedback session. So after each of you will get the survey, and we will be really, really pleased if you can fill in the survey and share your opinion. Was it worth your time or not? Hopefully it was. So first of all, the session today, it's a continuation of the session we started a couple of years ago with Hayan, and about the role of AI in the game industry. So it started a few years ago. We started talking about kind of different pieces, how things working around, how things doesn't work. Now it came from a lot of theoretical example to a lot of practical pieces, etc. So I think before we start, guys, does any of you use ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini? Raise your hand. Oh, okay, I'll also raise hands. All right. Does any of you use any development tools to help you at work? All right, we have a lot of people. Does any of you build agents or already built some agents? Okay, we have plenty of them. Does any of you use agents in daily work, the one you built? Okay, also we have a group of people. All right, today we'll talk a bit more about the last piece, and we'll try to share kind of what's going on around. So first of all, we came from the gaming industry. So the goal is here that you're playing your favorite game. You can suddenly, the world around you start adapting. So not just to your skill level, but also to your personality, to your choice, even to your mood. So NPC remember your past actions, the story bends to your decisions, and every change and challenge feel crafted just for you. So this is not just science fiction, it's the promise of agentic AI in gaming. And today we're joined by industry leaders who are making this future real. So we'll try to explore how AI is transforming games from the static experiences into living and breathing worlds. And as I said, it's our fourth session. We've been sharing it between San Francisco and Cologne over the last years. And please give a warm welcome to our speakers today. I think we'll start with Hayan. Hayan is the GM of AI Innovation Science and Xbox. Would you want to make a quick introduction of yourself?
Oh yeah, hi everybody, I'm Hayan. Thanks Vitaly for having me back on this panel. It's really always a fun time at GDC. So I lead our AI science efforts as we ship a few player-facing features that really try to support the gaming experience with AI. So we are shipping the gaming copilot, where as you play, you can chat with a AI copilot to get help on your game on PC or mobile. And we also just had private preview of automatic highlight reels, which is we use AI to automatically clip the best moments in your gameplay so you can share them with your friends. So those are some of the things that we're working on.
Thank you, Hayan. Francis is a VP of Data and AI at Sega.
Yeah. So hi everybody. So yeah, I work at Sega, and yeah, we're really responsible for all the kind of data and AI within the business. Worked in the game industry for 20 years. Very fun, and it's good to be here.
Awesome, thank you. And Ryan Valenza, he's Senior Director of Data and AI at PlayStation Studios.
Great, yeah, thanks Vitaly. I'm Ryan, I'm at PlayStation Studios. PlayStation is both a platform on which you can play games, and it's also a series of a dozen plus first-party game studios and external connections. My team sits on the studio side, directly supporting our game development efforts and all of their data and AI needs. Prior to PlayStation, I was the director of machine learning at Bungie.
Awesome, thank you. I do a quick intro of myself. I'm Vitaly Vashuk. I run gaming and gaming solutions at EPAM. We build solutions across one of the largest game studios, and a lot of the solutions built with the help of AI right now. So I think moving forward, so we've been thinking about how to make this session more engaging, how to build from different building blocks. And I think the first question that to put in our mind is how do you see agentic AI is transforming the gaming industry over the next 3 years? Maybe Hayan, can maybe switch to you.
Yeah, so I think, even in the last month or two, I think we're seeing a real step change in the capability of AI models and also AI tools like agentic coding tools like Claude Code or GitHub Copilot. And I think it's driven by a couple of new changes in how we're leveraging AI. So one is the models themselves are improving. There's been kind of a dramatic improvement in AI models' ability to do reasoning, their ability to generate code. Also, just like this specific activity that is multi-step planning and reasoning. So when you give a task to an AI model and you say, okay, now break down this task into multiple steps, plan each and every step, we've just noticed that the models are just gotten very good at that particular activity, that you can actually task them with an end-to-end feature and have the model go through planning for that feature, generating the code. And then the final piece I would say is tool calling. The models are now able to not just generate code, but call tools to execute the code, test it, iterate, test it again. And so it's really like closing that loop. And so I would say that the big shift has been models or AI agents that assist in writing code to agentic coding tools where you can give them a holistic end-to-end feature and have that agent go through and deliver that feature. So where the kind of the team is now they're setting the vision, they're setting the plan, they're articulating what the feature does, and they're overseeing the agents rather than getting deep down into the line by line coding. So I think that's a real shift. And I think in the next 3 years, like for us in the games industry, it means we're able to more rapidly prototype new features in the game. Hey, I've got this game, I want to add in this like new accessibility feature. And I think so that's going to be very powerful for us. Rapid prototyping new game experiences to just like, hey, I want to test out this new experience. Let's just use agentic coding tools, maybe multiple agents to develop it for us faster, and more comprehensive testing and iteration of our deliverables. So I think it's really, every year we come and we say it's going to transform. I would say don't underestimate that step change that's taken place in the last 2 months.
Yeah, awesome. I think we all noticed like how this was new, like a Claude Code release that happens literally a couple of months ago, how it's really impacting the way how we develop software. So now if you literally if you don't know some of the LLM tools, like a Claude Code, for example, so you can become not the best performing member of your team if your team start experimenting with AI. So Francis, what do you think? What do you think about?
Yeah, I think just, I agree with everything that Hayan just mentioned. And I think just building on it and having a look at the impact to the industry. And I think ultimately what we're going to see is that the products that we're delivering to consumers will be much, much richer. They'll have a lot more features. We won't be shipping with as many bugs. The optimization we can bring and the way that we work and develop our titles will be huge, right? So I see this as a real boon to the consumers and what we're able to deliver to them.
Yeah, thank you. Ryan, anything from your side?
Yeah, so I think when I interpret this question, I might be reading too much into the word transformation. So transformation to me means radical change. And I think in our industry, we have an extremely deep and diverse industry, right? We have games coming out at every level of investment, from indie to AAA, across multiple genres. We have live service titles, mobile games, single-player narrative experiences. And I think I do not see changing radically in 3 years. I think we'll see an evolutionary uptake in AI, where hopefully developers empowered by these tools will develop games at lower cost, faster timelines. But that's an evolutionary approach, not a transformation. The really transformative aspects of AI I see in new entertainment experiences that this technology can unlock. And I think, as I mentioned, this industry is deep and diverse. It doesn't supplant what exists. It's something new. I think we need to get a handle on what exactly that means. Maybe it's shorter form content. Maybe it's new gameplay that takes into account player agency. We still have a lot to figure out.
Awesome. And I think we start talking also in parallel way about the coding pieces. So because we see that one of the biggest kind of shift happens literally in development productivity and how code is created with the help of AI. So we also start noticing that some of the agents are developing code on the level of, I would say, an average developer. Let's call it like that. And I think the question can be to Francis, so what are the most surprising insight you've uncovered compared to the last year coding experience using AI within your personal work and maybe within the Sega that you're working at?
Yeah, so I think I'll sort of focus on the kind of coding topic, right? We've already mentioned how things like Claude Code and GitHub Copilot have sort of really transformed. When I look at using those tools 1-2 years ago, they were really just a subtle improvement on what kind of IDEs were already offering. It was effectively intelligent autocomplete. Now with this kind of multi-step Agentic approach to how it's trying to solve a problem, it's pretty phenomenal what it's doing. And I would encourage everybody in here to try and rip up your playbook and start vibe coding. It's a horror. I don't like the term, but it's going to be a huge transformation, and these tools have changed rapidly over the last 12 months.
Awesome. And Ryan, how about your, I don't know if the right word to say vibe coding, but let's talk about what you think about coding experience. And since you are leading a number of experience inside of PlayStation right now, focus on AI. So what do you think about the coding experience and how you may start considering that as a part of your regular work?
Right. Well, I think the biggest surprise to me is how the opinion on agentic coding varies across engineering discipline, right? So depending on who you talk to, you're either having a fantastic party and it's changing your life, or it's not really there yet. I think obviously the answer depends on the complexity of your domain. Like if you're working on a decade-old proprietary game engine in a low-level language, you're not going to see the same boon as if you're in cloud or web-based tools. And I think what that also does is it shines a light on how we can measure ROI for agentic systems, because game development is, it's an assembly line. You can empower one portion of the assembly line, but does that mean that you've shortened the timeline of your game? I think it really shines a light on the fact that for agentic coding, you need a cohesive, wide strategy with multiple groups buying into it.
Yeah, thank you. And anything from your side?
Well, so number one, most surprising thing is ASCII art is back. I am so excited. Last year at GDC on this panel, I said, hey, we should all be making MUDs. We should all be making text-based games. It's like people are really into ASCII art and the terminal now. So I feel like it's going to make a comeback. So it's interesting because I switched my workflow because originally I was using an IDE. Usually I'm in VS Code. I've got my Copilot plugin. So I'm looking at my code, each of the individual files. I'm looking at the lines of code and I'm like, hey, Copilot, generate, this, like refactor this file for me or something. And then I switched over to CLI, so using terminal only. So I'm not even looking at the code and I'm like, hey, I want to create a web app that allows me and my friends to get together, and we want to share bookmarks, and we want to be able to comment on the bookmarks. And as I said, with the multi-step reasoning and the planning, the agent was able to just create that for me, and it has pretty good kind of like basic UX capabilities. It's not shippable, but it's definitely usable. So that's kind of something that is very interesting and exciting, and I would sort of suggest everybody to go try it out and like imagine what is the tool that you've always wanted and see if an agent could just make that for you and would make your life slightly easier.
I think I think probably we'll talk about how agents can help to solve specific tasks. But I think since many of you raised a hand about building agents, and I think to solve specific tasks. But now the question is, have you built any agent that help you to build production-ready software? I think that's also the big question, because we look into building and using different type of tools in order to build prototyping piece. Now we use a lot of tools to build a production software. So now the question is like, when can you trust your agents enough to pull everything and to pull some mission critical applications as a part of your journey for game development or for whatever needs that you have for your platforms that you are working with. So and we kind of also talk about game developers, because we're at game development conference. So like most of us, I think probably 99% of this audience work in the industry or somehow touching it. And we've been thinking, how can game developers balance the use of AI and the use of AI-generated content to ensure we're maintaining the creative voice while we're making our favorite games, transform our favorite games into something better. And Ryan, what do you think from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting to take this question to its extreme. Like imagine if you just threw out the creative voice and you had tools that were good enough where you can pick any random person off the streets of San Francisco. There are a lot of people in those streets, if you haven't noticed. And you can empower them to create an experience that is of equal caliber to the games that we're coming out with today. I think that world is a much different world, and we have much bigger problems. That's almost an existential problem, right? It gets at the heart of, why are we making games? Are we making games to just sell a product? Or are we making games to produce art and put it into the world? Good news is that's a total fantasy, right? The tools are nowhere near good enough to do anything close to that caliber. And how we approach AI and maintaining the creative voice is, we are creatively led. We believe that a person without taste or craft using these tools will never reach the bar that someone on the creative side can reach. And while it does raise the floor for everyone, a creative is able to take that bar and raise it so much higher. In terms of how that voice is maintained throughout the development process, I think we have to maintain agency with these AI tools, right? You can't just throw out your art rules, for instance, or treat this AI like an alien box. You have to take ownership of it.
Awesome. I think, Hayan, Xbox has a lot of creative people, and you guys make so many amazing games. So what do you think about the creative side?
Well, we all know this is kind of a challenging topic. I will just express kind of my own opinions, which is, I really believe that the AI tools, they're there to help individuals and teams express their own creative voice. So as a team that wants to, has a vision, the AI is a tool to help them express that vision. Sometimes that expression matches what the team wants. Sometimes that expression is not as good. Like if you're generating an image and you prompt for something, sometimes it's exactly what I was envisioning. Sometimes it's like, it's not very good. Or sometimes it does a thing where, if in your vision there are gaps, and there are always gaps in how you describe an idea, the model will come and fill in those gaps. And sometimes those gaps are filled in the way that you want, sometimes in surprising ways. And I don't want to discount the model's ability to fill in the gaps in how you've expressed your vision. And that in itself could be a creative process to say, hey, here is a very general idea. Fill in some gaps for me, because I want to have just this kind of serendipitous walk into different ways to visualize my idea. And I think that's kind of okay, but always the harness is the AI is there to express your vision. It is not there to express its own vision. I think the other thing I want to say is I personally believe that everybody has taste and craft. Like, I don't want to separate I don't want to classify humans and say some people have vision, some people don't. Everybody has vision. And I think that the AI can be a tool for each of us to explore what our vision is and what we want to express. And there are folks who have strong vision. They get together and they want to build an entire game, like an 80-hour game, and that's amazing. And there might be an individual who's like, hey, I'm in high school and I just want to have a small thing that I want to express about myself, and the AI can also help them do that as well.
I think so many of the AI-generated web games, I think some of them probably not the best you would like to play, but some of them are fun. So I think that's also could be the things to consider. And maybe Francis, anything from your side?
Yeah, I think I'll mirror some of what these guys have already said. I think that ultimately we see it as, by abstracting some of the technical skill set required at early prototype stage, it allows everybody to really amp up the creativity. There's game directors and creatives that can't necessarily code that can now get involved in prototyping and expressing their ideas much more effectively. So I think AI opens up creativity within the wider workforce to be involved and express their ideas.
Awesome. And I think also gives you a chance to create prototypes instead of waiting for weeks and weeks from the agreement from your engineering team or anyone else. So that's really cool. And also actually with AI products, how would you test and evaluate since AI is non-deterministic? So Hayan.
Oh, right. So now I'm going to get a little bit more nerdy into some of the work that we do on some of our products. So one of our products is a gaming co-pilot, where we enable players to ask questions about their game, have kind of a conversational chat, and the co-pilot responds and answers those questions. And, when we look at product making, we say, okay, well, how do you actually test the output of your product, given that the model is non-deterministic? How do you really quantify how good the product is at answering questions? So what we do is, we think about, we call it, evaluation, product evaluation, and we separate into two phases. One is offline evaluation and one is online evaluation. So offline evaluation is we generate synthetic data sets. So we generate what we think people are going to discuss and ask. They're synthetic. And then we run them through the system. We get answers back through that system. And then we have another process where we say, okay, for our product, it's a conversational product, what are the metrics that we care about? For example, we care about hallucination. How much is the product hallucinating? We care about the quality of the answer, like, how personable is the agent? How relevant are the answers to the actual question? Is the answer on point? So we define those metrics, and then we once we run our synthetic data sets through the system, we get back the answers, and then we run those answers through our metric system. And the metric system is basically LLM as a judge. So we say, okay, now let's take the responses from our product and evaluate based on how much hallucination is in the responses, what is the quality, what is the relevance, etc. And that gives us a quantifiable way to articulate what we think is the quality of the product, right? To say, okay, we think hallucination rate is, 3%, something like this. Because at some point, it can't just be, I ran it 3 times, it answered me well, and let's ship this product. You have to have a systematic way of evaluating your AI product if you're going to send it out to people. And then the second piece is the online evaluation. So we take those metrics and we also evaluate the live responses and see, hey, is our actual user queries and answers meeting the bar that we set in offline? And of course, overarching all of this is a focus on responsible AI and safety, that we are ensuring that the responses of the product are safe. They are in accordance with our principles and what we believe that people want to discuss with a co-pilot. So that's a very important aspect of what we do as well.
That's really awesome. And you mentioned it's a great framework, and I mentioned hallucination. Sometimes we work in the same team, so ask a question to your colleague, and they start answering something that's really out of the box, and it's also feeding back to our common book of knowledge. So I think we should really we cannot rely always on the system. We should always check it out, what kind of outputs you get, and don't blindly share everything you get from the system. back to your team without a proper guardrails. And I think with that said, Francis, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so the kind of two foundation pieces that we tend to focus on is firstly kind of input governance. So making sure that we've got like good quality data that we're training models on. But then almost more importantly is context, right? So a lot of the games that we develop are, have a lot of detail in a lot of lore, right? And quite frankly, the off-the-shelf foundation models don't necessarily appreciate or understand it, right? So that's really key. The next one, which I cannot stress enough, and I think it's a fairly common comment, is human oversight. Our core kind of strategy is human in the loop on all this stuff. Whether it's generating code, the human should review that before check-in, right? Or whatever it is, right? Keep the human in the loop. Certainly for now, it's vital.
Ryan, any comments from your side?
Yeah, I think I'll echo what was said. I agree with everything that was said so far, but maybe frame it differently. I think you need to treat player-facing generative AI like an online service, and just like you would load test an online service, you need to kind of load test generations that are going to reach your players. For instance, if you are expecting 100,000 players, then they're going to get some generative dialogue or imagery, and you want to test against it being, inappropriate content. You need to form that number of inappropriate generations that you can expect before launch. And then you need to take advantage of compounding probabilities, right? So if there is a 1 in 1,000, if 1 in 1,000 generations might be inappropriate, then you can combine that with some agentic judge, as was mentioned before. And now there's also a risk because you have a stochastic system validating another stochastic system. But if there's a 1 in 1,000 chance that the content that was generated is inappropriate, and a 1 in 1,000 chance that the judge got it wrong, well, that's a 0.0001% chance that content reaches the player. So there are tools that you can use to really lower that risk.
I think stepping on that, Ryan. So maybe what do you think about how can AI integration in production pipeline improve efficiency and really the need of specialized knowledge for game development by itself? I mean, the question is more about, can everyone be a game developer? Do you really need to have a big team to make things happen?
I think the answer is it does not. So I think that agentic AI does not reduce the need for specialized knowledge in game development. I think, like I mentioned before, it raises the floor. It makes it easier to achieve simpler systems, simpler games. But the way I view it, specialized knowledge is still necessary. I view it as we're moving humans to more impactful areas where their judgment is absolutely needed. And I really hate this term, but it's about automating drudgery. It's taking the portions of work that maybe they don't want to do or that are really iterative, low skill work, and having AI applied there. But I think in a lot of this, you cannot forego the knowledge of the common task. And an example here I like to think of is in aviation. Right? When you're flying on a plane, 90% of that flight it can be automated, right? It's on autopilot. When do you want a pilot to step in? You need a pilot to step in when things are complex during landing and takeoff. Doesn't mean pilots can only know how to land and take off the plane. What if you encounter some issue mid-flight? They need to be able to respond accordingly. And I think the same analogy works for every discipline within game development.
Awesome. Any comments, Francis?
Yeah, I think, just kind of spinning it a kind of different way. I think, specialized knowledge within any kind of development studio or publisher is a significant problem, I think, and making that knowledge more widely available across the business, I think is something that can be helped and achieved by AI. So, looking at knowledge bases and building those out and then, having chat interface in front of it. You no longer have those kind of custodians of the history, certain wizards within the group, and that becomes much more accessible. But yeah, totally.
Awesome. And do you want to comment?
Yeah, I think I pretty much, in alignment with our other panelists. I would say I think in this world where we will have agentic tools as part of the development workflow, I think specialized knowledge is even more important. But the use of it will be, I think there'll be less mundane, repetitive work and more acute necessity for specialized knowledge. So, for example, if you, you kind of become a driver of an agentic tool, and we need specialized knowledge to review the work and to really pinpoint specific issues in, let's say, code that's been generated. So I think that need for specialized knowledge is even more. At the same time, I would say across the team, I think there's a new capability that everybody is going to start learning and taking on board, kind of a general knowledge of how to prompt and drive these agentic tools, how to get the most out of your agents to support the work that you're doing, and then learning where specifically you apply the specialized knowledge to make sure that the delivery is of the highest quality.
So, and I think we also, the part of the reason why together we talk about personalization. So, the question is to all of the panelists, we'll start with Haiyan, is how do you ensure that AI-driven personalization enhance rather than undermines player agency and creativity?
I think we discussed briefly sort of what we mean by personalization, because there are many different areas in gaming where personalization can be applied. On kind of like the platform side, this might be recommendations, this might be suggestions for how to improve your gameplay. Inside of games, it might be more personalized storytelling, you going on an adventure with your friends that's unique to your group. Maybe tuning of the difficulty of a game based on how good you are at playing, and sort of adjusting as you grow in your capability of that game. So there's lots of different areas. So I would say at a higher level, I think there are many opportunities for AI to personalize these kinds of experiences in game, outside of the game, at a platform level for players. I think it's important to remember that AI is there to open up the options. Because I think what we don't want is a highly efficient, personalized path in our lives where everything is super efficient and we get to have no fun. So I think what we want to apply personalization for is AI is there to open up more options for the player, whether that be, hey, here are some other recommendations we wouldn't have normally recommended, or here are some even broader sets of stories you could experience in this game. So I think that is kind of like the approach. And also just thinking about like, how can we still have these delightful serendipitous moments? Because I think that's the best thing about gaming with my friends, right? Like we all, played Fortnite and we had this great social experience, and then this happened and everybody started laughing. And it's those like serendipitous, delightful moments that makes games. And we should, I don't quite know how to do that, but just like thinking about, can AI help and not take away from that serendipity?
That's really interesting. Ryan, do you want to say a few words from your side?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I think like hyper-personalization actually enhances player agency by its very definition, right? Because you're necessarily getting an experience that is catered to exactly what you want, whether it be a boss that's dynamically changing combat tactics depending on your play style, or loot that you're getting that takes into account your previous weapon stats and usage. You're necessarily getting a more curated experience that allows you more agency. I think the risk for players is that could potentially create silos where you're experiencing a completely different game than your peers. And that can be isolating. That's the echo chamber world. But I think what's maybe more of a risk here is undermining designer agency, right? Because when game designers make a game, they have intention behind it. They want to craft an experience for players, and they have a strong vision behind it. But there, I'm going to go back to what we talked about in the beginning, which is this is a very deep and diverse industry. There's room for more curated well-designed experiences as well as this hyper-personalized environment for players.
Yeah, so I think for me, the key word here is relevancy. If you give relevant, suggested content and experiences to consumers, then it's great. If you're doing the opposite, it's almost toxic to the experience, both to the product and any other channels that you might have. So when you look at things like CRM activities, for example, of engaging with players to try and whether it's upsell or improve engagement, if you're getting it wrong, then people are going to switch off, and it's going to be more negative than positive.
And also, we talk about games. Why we play games? It's also a lot about not only about community. It's also about story and storytelling. So why we would like to play your favorite, I don't know, your favorite. Let's say any games. I like Fortnite a lot. Why Fortnite? Because it's a story about this island. You jump around, do some great things. There's some stories created around you all the time, and when you think about agents and agentic AI. So we think about also different type of assistants. So, and Francis, question to you: how will you use AI in assisted storytelling?
Yeah, so I think first of all, it's worth talking about like kind of unassisted AI in storytelling in games. And for those who have experience of kind of Sega titles, we have a lot of like single player, rich campaign experiences. And our experience so far with kind of generated dialogue and story, it's a bit rough and ready still, and I don't think it's quite ready. I think it will get there. So I think a lot of our focus has been on kind of like pre-production stage, understanding, how dialogue lands, how, where this, how the story feels and really work around it. And like I said before, enabling the creative throughout the experience.
So, any comments from you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't think we're quite there where we can leverage AI to mimic some of the very deep, rich narrative experiences that we have today in games. But what I think is interesting is thinking about how we can use AI to create living, breathing worlds, right? AI has context, and for the first time, we have a tool where you can take that context of player history into account. Like think about 2011 Skyrim Radiant quests, which were random quests that came out with Skyrim, where you go to a bandit camp and kill some people. What if those quests could take into account your history with that town, what your player has done, what class you chose, previous NPC interactions? I think we can program this today. It's not difficult, but we're operating in an area of such high complexity where LLMs and other AI tools can really help us get there.
And do you want to comment this question?
Well, on Sunday, I went to this workshop. I flew into SF early, and I went to this workshop on AI and games. And I think the topic of the day is, where are the AI games? And I have to say, everybody, there's maybe like 100 people, and everybody had devoted devoted their career to making AI games. And we were asking, where are the AI games? I'm curious, in the audience, is anybody trying to bring to life an AI game or just exploring it in their spare time? Don't be shy. It's okay.
A few hands, yeah.
There's people. We got to form a community, right? And I would say, in this discussion, some of the emerging trends I'm seeing is there's a shift from AI as dialogue to AI as action and game director, right? I think we started out maybe 3 years ago, GPT's great at dialogue, and then we're oh, it's kind of getting boring, the dialogue. So it's how can we get AI to be structured and to become this game director, directing AI teammates or helping us shape the story, not necessarily filling us with lots of dialogue to read. And I think some of the structural things I'm seeing are there does need to be a strong point of view about the lore and the characters, the story itself, and that needs to be encoded in some way. And then the AI could take that and maybe configure new stories, new paths for you to take, but there needs to be the strong foundation that is created by the team itself of like, what is your world and what is your story?
And that's really. I regret not coming on Sunday. That was big miss, I think.
Oh, dude, yeah.
So, but I think actually we have a last question. I hope we have a chance also to get maybe like 1 or 2 questions from the audience after, I guess. So stay tuned. So, question to Francis. So, what role do you see AI play in enabling new forms of interaction, player interaction, or emergent gameplay that were not possible before? We talk about later. Start our topic today. What kind of what's next? I think what's next is happening right now as we speak, and changing like from hey, it's in the future, hey, it's the next quarter, maybe next 6 months. So, what do you think can enable new form of interaction that we haven't seen before?
Yeah, so there's kind of like 3 areas that kind of really excite me. I think one of the first ones is assisting our players in game. So some games can be pretty deep and pretty complex, but once you get the hang of it, you love it. So how do we assist players through that experience? And I think, AI can really help that, make it more engaging, because, flat tutorials are sometimes a bit of a bore to go through, right? I think game AI and, Brian, you mentioned earlier about like procedural events and how the game kind of builds itself. I think that's a huge area to uncover and explore. What you've done previously on the game, or your previous actions or your preferences as a player. And I think the last one, and this is really cool, I think, is the AI game genre as a thing, right? There's a market now for people who want to buy an AI game. You look at AI Town and AI Dungeon, of just 2 of them that I certainly play around with. It's mad, and you look at the players and what they want from those games is the idiosyncrasies of AI and how it behaves, right? So there's an emerging market, and that's always exciting. It kind of rips up the industry again, right?
Hayan, do you want to comment that part?
Well, I guess, I'm actually going to quote somebody else from this workshop, Max, a child who is the founder of Weekend. They're an AI gaming company. You should look them up. They used to be called Volley, but you should look them up. They're doing some cool stuff. But he had a really great quote to articulate how we think about AI in games, which is, he says, whenever we talk about AI and games, we're always talking about the end game. And the end game is, it's going to be amazing. It's going to generate like entire new quests and like entire new games maybe. And it's going to be infinite play. That's the end game. The problem is we are currently in the mid game. Like, it's just not good enough. We're in the mid game. So how do you design for the mid game with the anticipation that, in a month or 2, the models will improve slightly and you might get a different experience? So I think that's the challenge we're all facing, designing for the mid-game. And I think, as I said earlier, I think it's about communities of devs coming together and sharing perspectives and challenges. So all the people that raise their hands that are working on AI games, I would love to see a Discord where we're all chatting together, because I think solving for this is going to help all of us create new experiences for players.
Awesome. Ryan, last comment from you.
Yeah, this is an interesting question that I grapple with, because you said features that were not possible before. And in general, when I think of an AI feature, what I see today, I can think of a way to do it without AI. And I need to think, well, what does AI unlock for us that is truly not possible before? And how do we make it fun? And making it fun is, as you all know, incredibly challenging. What AI unlocks for us, in my opinion, I agree with everything that was said before, is in the infinite, right? It's in infinite generations of content. And while I don't particularly like this example, think of AI NPCs. Having an NPC that you can talk with infinitely, that's something that AI unlocks. Is it fun? Is it fun to talk to ChatGPT? I don't know. I don't think so, but I think we can figure it out. In some cases, we have to be wary of infinite generation, right? Because, just to give an example, one of my favorite games of all time is Dark Souls. And if you play that game, you talk to an NPC, they say something cryptic. You talk to them again, they say another thing that's cryptic. Talk to them a third time, they repeat the dialogue that they said originally. That's like psychologically, that's satisfying because now I know I'm done. I can move on and I can go on to different things. If they just kept talking, that would be so frustrating. When is this over? So we have to. It's not immediately clear how to make AI fun.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we have a few minutes for the questions, guys. If you can stand in front of the microphone and just maybe do a short question, and we'll try to answer. I think maybe from the right side. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Marius from Gamelofts. I want to ask about maybe a less exciting area for AI. What about using AI for analytics and understanding the telemetry, the qualitative data from the users? What do you see in that area? What is your experience, and what do you find to be like a lower hanging fruit versus something that requires more investment? What's your experience on that?
Okay. Yeah, I think if I understand the question is, how are you using AI to understand player behavior? Is that fair?
Yeah, player behavior and everything connected to
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
sales data, mixing everything together.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of areas here, certainly that we look at. So firstly, it's like, using AI and ML to understand patterns within people's behaviors. Human brain can only really deal with 3, or if you're polymath, maybe 4 dimensions, right? There's no limit to the machine, right? So using things like k-means or other approaches of understanding patterns in play behavior, where the machine will find things that you would never have dreamed of, right? And that's exciting because it can help us understand and adapt our games. I think the other area, which is maybe a little bit more dull but hugely important, is the accessibility of data across the studios and organization. So, I talked about knowledge base and having that as an interface, but also all of our BI data, having that as a kind of an LLM interface is hugely powerful. And again, using Agentic, multi-stage, like research approach to come up with, suggestions of what we could do as well as. Now, obviously, we still need human in the loop, read it, maybe validate what it's done, the SQL it's written behind the scenes or whatever, but you no longer have to be, a Tableau expert or a SQL developer to be able to ask these questions.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
A question from the left.
Hi, Scott. Great talk. Thank you for sharing your perspective. On the non-deterministic side of things and how it approaches craft, particularly for those of us making highly iterative craft-driven things, what do you see on the horizon in terms of improving the work of an artist, of a designer, and in particular, how do you get the cost down with iteration?
Anyone wants to pick up this question?
Very broad.
It's very broad, yeah. And
Do you have a specific, do you want to qualify it a little bit? Like, do you have an example of what you're thinking about?
Yeah, like, being able to in the future, a lot of people who are working, say, in design, have to work on a encounter or a mission or et cetera, and they oftentimes do highly iterative work for a very long time where they want to have very intentful precision control over things. So what do you see on the horizon that's going to improve their workflow?
Wants to pick up? And do you want to pick up this one?
Man, that's a hard one. I would say that I think from chatting with game teams and like one-person indie devs that are making games, when you make a game, when you get down to the bones of it, there is a qualitative experience that is handcrafted. Like, I spoke with one indie dev and he'd made this game like 10 years ago, and he was just like, well, it was all about getting the timing of the jumps right. Like just tweaking the timing of the jump, that when you jumped off things, because the whole game is about jumping and running, and just like the feeling of that. And I think that is a human experience. I don't think that is an AI experience, that the AI can understand how to tune that. So I think, it's kind of like, if I think about it, it's like different strata of game development. And there are maybe some strata you could say, hey, make this faster, make this easier. And then at some point, there'll be like that the heart of the game and the feel of it, I think needs to be very human. And just understanding where those boundaries are so you don't like try to use AI for everything, I think is the key.
I think just adding to that as well, with any work, there's a lot of documentation or description about what you do and why you want to do it, and putting your ideas into a format that you can share with others to get either approval or feedback. And I think that's maybe again where AI can really assist in, right? Let's focus actually on the things that matter, and help make AI help with the integration with the rest of the team.
Thank you. A question from the right.
Sure, thank you. Once the AI tools mature and start getting better at what they do, what do you see as the competitive advantage that AI is going to bring to studios? Sustainable AI advantage, I would say. Competitive advantage.
Makes sense. Can you please repeat the question if you don't mind?
Sure, I'm too quiet. What sustainable competitive advantage does AI bring to studios once the tooling matures and gets used in pipelines more often? What is it going to be the differentiator? What is it going to do better?
I think it's a pretty broad question. I mean, I think my big view is optimization of our time, allowing us to work on the game. We all have so much fluff in our day-to-day job, right? And I would love to be able to spend all my time on the things that really matter and making a change, right, for the benefit of the product and the business, right? So that for me is, with a broad question, because a broad answer, I'm afraid, but that's the way I kind of see it. Right?
I would add that I think AI is an accelerant, right? So in some cases, maybe if you're exploring new experiences, it can give you a competitive advantage. But really, it's if you already have a competitive advantage, you can go so much further with this tooling.
I can give maybe like a comment. So for many of the game companies, to make release a new game costs tremendous number of resources. Literally, like we're talking about tens of millions, hundreds of millions, into even larger numbers. It requires hundreds and hundreds of people to make things to release. That's why new releases taken a while, because it's cooking, it's testing, it's checking, and so on and so forth. While players are waiting for the product. In our case, product to have fun with something cool created. So if we can use more advanced tools that can literally optimize the way how you create code, how you can create specification, how you test the game, like Agentic QA is now like a big story about how you can integrate different type of experiences. Like even like imagine like we talk about NPCs, yeah, to make all these NPC dialogues inside of whatever game you play took so much time. You need to have a lot of things happen around. Now you have all of the data, all of the voices of humans, all of the voices, synthetic voices. Now you can create them as a part of narrative. So it means that you can have your own game studio, game company, and create your game with way less efforts that you've seen before. And it's only touching the game industry, but also all of the pieces around us. So now you want to have your own company. You talk about raising like $500,000, $1 million to build a prototype of POC. Now no one's going to talk to you. They're going to ask, can you show me the POC? Because you can literally develop it by yourself without having a deep technology background. So that is like the key things. And of course, if you are not using AI right now, if you're not deploying it across your team, your personal area, personal development will be pretty tough. Literally, it will be pretty tough in the next 6 to 18 months. That's kind of real, because you won't be as productive as the other members of your team or the other competitors around you. So that's kind of thing that it's opinion from me personally, but that's what we see all over the board right now. Thank you. Question from the left.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kenny. I'm the CEO of Arcadium Games. Question, Haiyan, you talked about your process around evals, and it started with generating a massive amount of synthetic data. I'm curious why you start with synthetic data versus human data as that first step, and what you think the major differences are between creating your own data set of synthetic versus starting from a human data set.
Thank you. So I think the initial point is before you launch the product, you don't have any data. So I think the first point is you have to have a hypothesis about your product and what users are going to ask in your product. So starting out with like, let's generate that synthetic data set. And then once you have live data, we're very respectful of people's data and their interactions. So our ability to work with live data is also limited. So we want to be able to, for example, if you have live data, what we're really trying to do is understand the distribution of that data. So what are the clusters? If there's multimodalities, you have one large data set, but it's like divided up into lots of different distributions of different kinds of queries, for example. So we basically would want to simulate that distribution so that with our synthetic data set, we know we're hitting all the right categories of questions, all the right categories of comments that is going into the product to test its quality. That's essentially why we use synthetic data generation. Also, if you need to run like a million, like you're just like, well, we can't predict what the model's going to do after a million queries, so we need to generate a million queries to run it. It's really important. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. And maybe the last question.
Just a note of gratitude. Thank you so much. There's a lot of fear around adoption of AI. So as leaders in the industry, to hear you approaching it with play and possibility is really reassuring. And a shameless plug, we are building AI NPCs. So come see us pitch on stage tomorrow on the festival stage. Would love to see you there as we showcase Astropuffs.
What's your company or game? What's your studio?
Astropuffs. Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're on top of the time, guys. Please I would like to thank all of you. First of all, a round of applause to all of you for staying with us, and a round of applause to the speakers for today's conversation. I think maybe spend the next 5-10 minutes outside. If people need to run. If you have some maybe questions to Haiyan, to Francis, to Ryan, or to me, we will be spend the next few minutes outside. So thank you so much.